All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So, today we're going to continue our talk about taxation, but we're also going to be focusing on debt. Like, how did we get into debt? Who do we owe money to? Things like that. And at the very end, I'm gonna answer some like the top 30 questions I get in all my years in education when it comes to talking about the government, money, and things like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So here is your warm-up picture. So as you can see in dead center of the picture, there's a thing saying national debt. All right. So what do you think this artist is trying to say about our national debt? And if you look at the bottom, I know a lot of students kind of, I don't know if they just don't see it or if it's just looking more at the picture of the wave. But there's a little building there and has a little American flag just flying in the air. So what do you think this artist is trying to say about our national debt and try to incorporate that little uh, building with the American flag on it. So, what do you think? All right. So, go ahead, write your response, okay? Because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right. So, our tax money goes into several programs to help out the economy, provides assistance and security for citizens. Okay. Now, one of the things I always hear from students year in and year out is, "Oh yeah, these the government's holding on to money. They're doing this and that. They're saving up to this and that. They're keeping it for themselves." Okay. Here's the first thing. Um, the government isn't a person, it's an entity. It's a thing. If you're talking about politicians, that's something else, you know. But the thing is, the U.S. government does not hold or save money; they spend it all. Okay. Now, where that money goes, that's something entirely different. But to say that the government itself holds things, holds money, no. The surplus of money that's used by the government is usually put into one of two things: bonds or paying off our debt, which we'll talk about both later on. Okay. So here's the thing. Um, Earlier this week, we heard the State of the Union address by President Biden, and he laid down some things that he would like to see and like programs and assistance he would like to help with Americans with. Uh, so the president basically sets out a budget. This is how much money we should spend to this, and this. Uh, Congress would then approve the budget or have a little discussion about like, well, maybe we shouldn't put this much money into this, and do we really need to put this much money into that? How like why don't we spend more money on this than this? You know, so that's where the little argument comes between Congress and the president, and amongst the people in Congress itself. The agreement of where should our money go. Okay. Now, just like I asked you in the last lesson, um, I asked you guys, what are the top three things you feel our money should go to? School, police, firemen, things like that. Our veterans. And some of you guys gave some really great answers and explained it very, very well. But the president and Congress does the same thing. They're like, well, where should we really put our money into? What's the most important thing? And even though this chart is, several years old, it is still pretty accurate. Like half of our money is spent on defense. Okay. Now, when we talk about defense, a lot of people think like the soldiers, our veterans, things like that. I truly wished in my heart and soul that this money, even just half of that money, went to our soldiers, went to paying them, taking care of their families, our veterans, making sure that they're taken care of, that their hospital bills, they don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Any type of assistance for, shell shock and things like that, PTSD, that they're given the assistance they need. Doesn't happen. A lot. I mean, they do get tiny bit. I mean, tiny, tiny bit of that half you see. But a lot of that money goes into buying planes, ships, weapons, bullets, missiles, things like that. Drones. You know, uh, that's where that money goes to. Like I said, I hate to say it doesn't really go to our veterans, even though you might hear people say, "Oh well, we do this and that for veterans." Yeah, you can give more. Look how much money you got. Come on now, you can give more to them. Okay, but that's again my humble opinion. But again, a lot of that money goes to that. And you'll hear it on movies and stuff like that, and you know, people talking like this helicopter costs $3 million. Yeah, because that's a drop in the bucket of how much money the defense gets. Now, I hate to say it, but sometimes our government doesn't collect enough money to pay for all the programs and pay our bills, you know. So just like you and me, sometimes they have to borrow money, and we typically borrow from other countries and things like that. So these numbers are as of 2001. I haven't had a chance to update it, so you know. But Japan, we owe them about $1.299 trillion. China about 1 trillion dollars. Um, Britain about $500 billion, and Luxembourg, we owed them $311 billion. Now, like I said in class, there's a lot of people, not just in the classroom, but in the country, who could not tell you on a map where is Luxembourg. You give them a map of the whole world, they probably wouldn't even get within an inch of it. you know, I guess over there. Thing is, we owe them. Now, I had another student ask me, well, does anyone owe us? Yes, yes, yes. Other countries do owe us, but it's kind of like, instead of like, if I owed you $20 and you owed me $15, instead of us being like, oh, let's just cancel it out, so I just owe you $5, right? You owed me 15, I owed you 20. Well, cross that off, and now look at that little space. Hey, I owe you $5. It clears out your debt, clears out a chunk of mine. I just have this much little left to give you, right? But a lot of countries don't do that. They're very much like, I want my money. Give me my money. You know. So there's that problem. All right. So here's the thing. This is the national debt. This is as of right now, February 11th at 11:54 in the morning. This is our national debt. 31,548,644,000,000, about to be $200,000. Okay. Now, if you look, each one of these numbers tell you something like debt per citizen. That means for every man, woman, and child had to pay this much money, $94,335, to get our debt down to zero. Everyone. So if you have like five people living in your household, times that number by five. That's how many people in your household have to pay that off to the government to do your part to clear up debt. Okay. Now, if you have a job, you pay taxes and stuff like that. Those people, like myself, we would have to pay $246,000 if we just looked at taxpayers, because again, children don't pay taxes. You know, they don't got a job, so you take out all the people who don't pay taxes. That raises our number. Okay. Now, if you look at the green, that's the federal tax revenue. That's money we're making in. Okay. Um, and if you look at the numbers, state debt, debt per citizen, local debt, how much money we're spending on Medicare, Social Security, defense of war. You can see the U.S. population, the workforce. So let me go down just a little bit more. So you got all this information for you. Um, this tells you a lot of information. So there's a ton of stuff. Okay. But yeah, that's our debt right now. 31 trillion dollars. Okay. So here's the thing. When you take out a loan, you got to pay that money back plus some interest. Okay. Now, this interest is how banks make their money. Now, how much can interest be? Well, guys, it varies. It can be anywhere from zero, which it will never be, but it could, or it could be all the way up to 100%, which it probably wouldn't, but there's a chance. depending on if you're dealing with a loan shark or stuff like that, something illegal. Okay. Now, I had a student in class tell me when I was explaining how your interest rate you want it to be low, you know, but typically for you guys, since you'll be starting your life, stuff like that, your interest rate will be anywhere from, if you're lucky, like 18, 19%, all the way to like 29%. And he goes, well, how come my interest rate's like 1.2? I'm like, there is no way in the world you at your age would have an interest rate of 1.2. And he was talking about his savings loan or his savings um, in his bank account. You know, his savings was, it's like, yeah, because the bank takes your money and they use it to, you know, let people borrow it for buying a car, buying a home, buying more land, using the money for whatever. And in turn, you're going to get 1% of whatever's in your saving account back to you every so often. So it could be monthly, could be quarterly, whatever the agreement is. But yeah, that's what that means. That's why that number is really low. Those are typically low. If you get it on your bank account, your savings, like 10%, 18%, yeah, that's good. That's great. But yeah, they tend to keep those low. But when it comes to paying back loans, your interest rates are going to be high. They want them to be high. Now, as you get your credit score better, your interest rate will go down because the banks knows your interest rate goes down. That means you're going to pay us back. They know you're almost guaranteed money. So they're going to lower that because they want some money back, guaranteed. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So, for example, if you took out $1,000 loan and your interest rate was 25%, and you, after 1 month, were like, you know what, I want to pay it off all right now, you would then have to owe not just $1,000, but 25% of 1,000, which is $250. So you would have to pay $1,250. Now, this is where a lot of students, a lot of my former students, get into debt trouble because they're like, well, 25% of 1,000, it's $250. Okay, so if I miss 1 month, the next month it'll be $1,500. So I'm good. I can pay that back. Here's a problem. They don't take the interest rate, the 25%, if you miss after 1 month, they don't take it from that $1,000. They take it out of that $1,250. So that makes it go higher than $250. So now in total, if you don't pay it off in 1 month, you'll pay nothing off, no principal, no interest, no nothing. Then that price goes from 1,000 to $1,562. So now instead of you paying just an extra 250, now you have to pay back an extra $312.50. And guess what? If you still don't pay that next month, they're not going to take the 25% from the 1,000. They're going to take it from the 1,562.50. And then they just keep adding it, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's why I've had some students tell me, some former students tell me, like, how come I took out a $2,000 loan, you know, so many months ago, or a credit card debt, $2,000, several years ago, and now it's like $9,000. How did that happen? I'm like, well, did you ever pay back? What was your interest rate? Things like that. So that's the thing, guys. It's not just, oh, it's just one set amount they just add in every month, every month, every month. No, it gets bigger by percentage, the interest rate. Okay. Now here's the thing too. I get asked quite a bit. Can states borrow money? Yes, they can. They can borrow money, but they can also fall into debt. Okay. Now this is why it's illegal for states and local governments to borrow money from federal governments. From federal government, from foreign countries. Because the thing is, they can't by law. The state of California, your local government, your Fresno mayor cannot borrow money from Japan or China or India or wherever. They can't do that. Now, where can they borrow money from? Municipal bonds. So those bonds we were talking about earlier, what the government does with excess money, they put into the bonds, or they pay off the debt. Okay. Now here's some questions I get quite a bit of time, or quite a bit from students. Why don't we just print more money? If we're in debt, why don't we just print more 100 bills and pay it off? Because here's the thing: that money, it devalues our dollar. Okay, when there's more in circulation, it hurts our dollar bills. Okay, that's why counterfeiters are truly some of the worst criminals when it comes to the economy, because they make things worse for us. They make your dollar worth less and less and less the more they do it. That's why the agency that's in charge of taking down counterfeiters, it's not the FBI or CIA, it's the Secret Service. That was originally their job, not protecting the president. It was to catch counterfeiters and arrest them. That is still their job to this day, besides taking care of the president and protecting him. Okay. But yeah, that's why printing money is the worst decision we could do. And on top of that, if another country got some more fake money, oh, that's going to be so horrible for us, because not only are they going to check every single dollar, now other countries are going to be like, well, they don't pay them, don't lend them any money because they give fake money to you. You know, they might as well be giving you like mail, like letters that they get from the mail, and say that's money. You know, the other one I get to quite a bit of time is some students can't fathom the idea that does the government burn money? Yes, they do. Absolutely, all the time. They burn old, discontinued, or damaged dollars. So if you ever get a dollar, somebody pays you some money and they give you a dollar bill that's ripped up, there's some tape around it, you can still go to the store and use it. Now, there might be some registered person who doesn't understand that, yeah, the money is still good. They might be like, oh, no, we can't take that. No, you can. They can. Okay. But what they do is, uh, when they take that money, the manager people, they take those torn up bills and ripped up ones and things like that, and they basically, those guys who come in the armored trucks and stuff like that, they have a little thing on there saying, telling them, hey, this is damaged dollars, from our store, things like that. They then send it to the treasury department, and they then send the check saying, okay, here's how much dollar bills were destroyed and how much were from your store that were um, damaged in some way. Uh, you could do that. If you got a $20 bill, $10 bill, and you like ripped in half in quarters and put in the envelope and sent it to the Treasury Department, they'll send you a check for that $10 bill, because they're gonna burn it, and then they're like, okay, take it to the bank and get another one. That's what they do. Okay, so yes, the idea that the government burns our money, it is very true, because again, that lowers the circulation as well, so it makes the money we have worth a little bit more. Now, here's another thing too. A student asked me, well, what if you find some old money? I'm like, dude, keep it, hold on to it, don't spend it. Because there's a lot of $20 bills, $100 bills that, your grandma, your great grandma, somebody, they used to like put those in coffee cans and things like that just for a rainy day. And sometimes they forgot about it. So those old school $20 bills, $100 bills, um, they're valuable, so hold on to those, don't spend them, because eventually those will then get into circulation and then they will be burned and things like that. Now, what happens if the government doesn't pay their debts? Just like you and me, we get a credit score. The government gets a credit score. Now, our credit score is based on numbers, 710, 840, 302, it ranges. The government has the same thing, but they have by letters, like double B, triple B, things like that. Uh, but if they don't pay back their loans, their credit score goes down. and then it's gets harder for the government to get other loans. And if they are able to get better get some loans, their interest rate's going to be higher. So just like you mean, the government doesn't want to have high interest rates. They want to keep them low, and they want to be able to borrow money whenever they can. Okay. So here's my question to you. When you saw the stat of how much money we owed and all that stuff, what stat caught your eye the most? Now, if you um, didn't see that part, go back to the video, go back to that time, watch that or pause it, and tell me what do you think? And also, do you think we will ever bring our debt down to the low billions? I'm talking like 7 billion, $8 billion. And if you don't know, like, well, where's the billions at? Pause the video on our debt and do the whole hundreds, thousands, millions, and billions, that first number on the billions part. Do you think we'll ever get our number down that low? Why or why not? Okay. So, with that being said, you guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later, okay?